I actually think that the power price crisis in this country has completely and utterly rendered the Labor government clueless. All we're getting from Albo's mob on this are thought bubbles. Peter Dutton's dead right on the issue. 1 minute, we're told the gas companies are just greedy. Ed Husic, the Minister for Industry, ripped into gas companies again last week. The chief climate evangelist, Chris Bowen, is floating the idea of the government setting gas prices. Good luck with that, comrade. And then the Treasurer comes up with a new gas super tax. But of course, nothing happens. They didn't use the opportunity at the budget to do anything on the most important price pressure occurring in households today because I think they're clueless. And the true facts are these. One, we have a drastic shortfall in gas supply. Don't let them tell you different. Two, since about 2008, Labor has done nothing but demonise gas and coal, constantly threatening the closure of both those industries. Fact three, the banks then got in on the act, got their gas and coal voodoo sticks out, or dolls out, sticking pins in by refusing to loan money to these industries. Four, the states and territories joined the pack and did all they could to ignore support for any new coal or gas-fired power stations. And in the process, all coal and gas-fired power stations aged without proper maintenance or closed completely. Five, gas companies signed huge contracts abroad because they had no future in Australia's ridiculous green nirvana. Why wouldn't you gravitate to buyers abroad who wanted your product? They are the five indisputable facts. And now the same Labor ministers who've led the demonisation blame the industry for their behaviour. It's all just a shield to cover their sorry backsides. The Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association Chief Executive, Samantha McCulloch, this is her saying this, not me. The government is being irresponsible by repeatedly demonising and misrepresenting a leading industry so critical to the national economy. Spot on. But what the government is focused heavily on now, as we learnt this weekend, is trying to host one of these big climate conferences, the COP Talk Fest in 2026. Here's the climate evangelist himself yesterday.
I'm pleased to confirm that the Cabinet has agreed with me to bid to host COP31 in 2026. Australia wants to be a renewable energy powerhouse, and a conference of the parties, as well as being an important discussion, is also the world's biggest trades fair. This is an opportunity, will be an opportunity if we win the bid, to show Australia's capacity to help the world as a renewable energy powerhouse.
So hang on a second. They're told by the energy regulator to act now in bringing down power prices, but we've got nothing whatsoever from the government. And yet they're so proficient at coming up with symbolic ideas like hosting a climate talk fest. They're good at that. They want to be seen in front of the world as the saviours of all things green, but can't do their real job, which is make the tough decisions to increase the supply of gas and get our power bills down. The cost of power will kill people over summer, and decisions will be made by desperate Australians unable to pay their power bills to avoid cooling their homes, and the reverse in winter. But don't worry, we'll host a climate conference. That'll fix it all, where hundreds of international climate leaders will fly in with their private jets right into the national capital in a major emission of CO2 to talk climate. That'll fix it. And the evangelist, he'll be the most popular greenie on the planet.
This is an opportunity, of course, for Australia to remind the world that we're back. We're back at the international table. Unlike recent COPs where Australia was seen as part of the group which actually was working to stop progress, to get in the way of progress, Australia will be a willing and active participant in these discussions. This is a COP, of course, which is focused on implementation plus, about getting on with the job of holding the world as close as possible to 1.5 degrees of warming.
What a joke. By 2026, can you imagine what your power bill will look like? Because by then, another 3 coal-fired power stations will have closed, and we'll still get a trickle of power supply from all those windmills and solar panels. Let me tell you this, according to the BP Statistical Review of World Energy, consumption of fossil fuels is growing faster than ever. Hydrocarbons have seen an 8-fold increase in demand. The world has spent $1.5 trillion on renewables, But renewable sources supply less than 2% of global power, less than 2 for 1.5 trillion. And that's decades after the world began this expensive and fraught renewable crusade. Imagine when Australians start buying electric vehicles in large numbers. Where and how do we double our baseload power for that? Even this weekend, the Courier Mail reported that one of the Queensland's power stations in Biloela is offline at the moment. And if a real hot or real cold day hits Queensland this coming week, parts of the state will face blackouts. That's now. 2022, before those 3 power stations close down. That's how on the edge we are already with baseload power supply. This whole fabulous transition has been a big, fat furphy, a nirvana based on no scientific homework, just green populist politics. And what role will this suicide mission play in saving the planet, reducing CO2? Nil. If we emitted 0 CO2 tomorrow, Australia would make an infinitesimal difference to the temperature of the planet. For any kind of renewable transition to have any chance of working, the actual output from those renewables has to first prove it's at a baseload level. Then you shut down your coal and gas plants, if that's your aim. Not the other way around, which is exactly what we're doing in this country. The practicalities of this must override this blind morality.